Okay, so why is livestock traceability important? This is to me so critical. We use it for preparing, responding, and recovering from animal health, human health, and food safety emergencies. You now have a pretty good understanding of what it involves and why it's being driven to us federally and internationally. But what do we do with it? Like, what do we really do with it? We also use it to ensure that the production capacity, that's $64 million of beef, and our market access are not jeopardized. I love this because I truly believe government and industry cannot do it on their own. If you see each one trying here, they're not really succeeding, they're sitting in the middle. Finally, they work together and do it. We need producers to do their paperwork. We need industry organizations that are part of the value chain to do that and to educate. We need to do our part as government too, right? And if we make it work, we'll have a much more strong and robust system. The other thing I like about this is because we have a choice to be a bunch of dumbasses and pull against each other until we end up cracking our heads and sitting in the middle, or to actually make an excellent traceability system that will protect our industry. So we're not that gentleman who's lost his entire herd. Okay, let's talk about preparation. I mentioned Slave Lake, 1 hour. You have 1 hour to evacuate your home, your kids, your pictures, your memories, and your animals. 1 hour. Fires happen. As you can see, this home's gone, practically. Things like rollovers happen. We can prepare for all of these things. We can have plans in place. Something like foot and mouth disease, which travels fast and quick and furious, is going to have a much different impact on us than something like BSE. But if we think about how we're doing stuff, if we've got our paperwork in place and got our electronic stuff in, we can make it work. So when we're preparing for an emergency, we do a lot of trial runs. The Office of the Chief Provincial Vet will access the data from the CLTS for cattle, from Alberta pork, from LIS. We will call producers or agricultural business and say, can we look at your records, please? We need them. But I would much rather have everything easily in a database instead of having to drive 5 hours and rifle through a whole bunch of boxes of paper and still not maybe have what I need, and then drive back to Edmonton. So we can sit down and do the work, especially if there's multiple locations we're doing that in. Time is of the essence. We use this data when we're dealing with an animal disease response, a zoonotic disease response, or an emergency such as a natural or technological disaster, fires, floods, pipeline breaks, anhydrous ammonia train tipping over near Airdrie, all of that, very important. This is a PID system. This is a snapshot. This is some general stuff we made up. It's not a real actual person. We made it up for the purpose of this. It's from our demo site. You can see Monster Inc. and Barney Rubble. They're active. We've got their main locations. We've got their legal land. We've got their street address. We've got the approximate number of species they have as a capacity. Critical. Our Chief Provincial Vet who brought this in years ago, Dr. Gerald Allis, at one time said, is this system perfect? No. But I'd much rather go out there over expecting to deal with 2,000 head than to walk in and have 50, than to go out there expecting to deal with 50 and walk in and there's 2,000. On your PID application form, you will be asked capacity for every species you have on that premises. Capacity is not how many you currently have, it's how many you could have, based on how you run that operation. If I'm willing to feed 10 months of the year so I can have 25 head of horses, okay. I put 25 down. But if I'm not willing to feed 10 months of the year, I only put the 5 or 10 down that my land can support, right? And even if I only have 5, because maybe I've got foals coming in the year and that's going to bump me up. This circle, this yellow dot part of me, that's where the incident happens. All these blue dots are the premises that have been registered with the species that we're concerned about, or species if it's something that can transmit. This blue circle is the area at risk. We will contact every premises in our system by phone, we've got a dial-out system that works, electronic messaging, by text, depending on the situation, by email or by snail mail, depending on the urgency, saying, here's what's happening in your area. Here's what we want you to look for. This map is a little bit skewed, and I apologize. I wanted you to see the full breadth of it. FMD. These, as of a month ago, are all the premises in our province, starting from the north, up here, and all our agricultural lands that are susceptible species to FMD. Oh my God. And we don't even have everyone in there yet. If we don't have accurate paperwork, good luck, right? I'm just being honest. Good luck. Let's clean it up a little. Let's make it a little bit easier to see. Let's pull out all the cattle. We still have bison, but no dairy and no beef. This is what we still have to deal with. Bison, deer, elk, goats, llamas, sheep, swine, wild boar, and yaks. And again, we don't have them all. We identify the at-risk premise, as I've said. Who needs to be contacted within that sphere or the area of risk? We identify the animal movement along a corridor. This is a road. All these little blue dots are premises that have species at risk within a 3-mile or 3-kilometer radius on either side approximately. This is what it would look like if we were trying to trace back a trailer that we knew, let's say that came in from Saskatchewan. All the possible routes they could have taken. Look at all the premises we need to contact. A lot. Just to say, here's what's happening. We rely on them to have their age verification, or pardon me, their CLTS information with the RFID tags in place, and their transport information, so we know if they've left this area and where they went, and which trailer. Responding and recovering. Other huge part of how this system is used. In the event of an animal health or a food safety issue, the faster suspect animals or food products can be identified, the better off we are. Gerald gave a great example about how Japan closed the door because we couldn't find one animal. That's reality, guys. And it's millions and millions of dollars worth of product that's sitting there. If we have a disease outbreak without traceability, the livestock movement will potentially spread to neighboring areas. First, this is how it works. Our first responders go out. They locate and interview at-risk premises and animals. In 2001, when there was FMD in the UK, they did this by driving around and looking for premises. That's effective. That's efficient, right? They themselves said, we had lots of databases, but nothing talked to each other. It was horrible. They also potentially brought other diseases in and out because they forgot about biosecurity sometimes. They were so focused on getting the one job done, they forgot about the other impact. Each day that passes, the disease can spread further, which impacts more animal owners. And the disease eradication costs and the hardships keep increasing. Day after day, more shipments are sitting there, more meat is getting thrown out. This is a picture of the UK when the foot and mouth disease happened in 2001. Of course, it's epizootic disease. There was over 2,000 cases across the British countryside. This is before they identified it. In an effort to control the spread of the disease, they closed public routes because they didn't know how else to make sure it wouldn't go. In the process of controlling the disease, this pasture turned into this. Because it spreads from species to species, or some species, pardon me, we got this. Millions of animals were depopulated. Many of them healthy, because they didn't know which ones went. Billions of dollars were lost. The industry did not recover for a long time, and some even say it still hasn't recovered. The one thing we haven't talked about very much because of the time is when you lose a market, do you ever get it back? Because there's 5 other countries lined up willing to take it. And once they're in, you go to the bottom of the list. Think of the producers in your area or even your own herds that you take care of. Do you want to spend all the time and energy and work you've done for that? Where I'm from up north, we have a lot of bush. And we have bush piles burning for miles on end often in the fall and spring. Late fall, after the snow falls, early spring. They look like this because they depopulated so many animals. With traceability, when there's a disease outbreak, yes, the livestock movement can potentially spread to neighboring communities or farms. It's totally possible. First responders will consult our databases, our premise ID database, which tells us where to go, who to contact, what species are there, approximately how much they have. Our animal identification databases, so our tags, how many animals are here, CLTS, pig trace. Producers can input information. Industry organizations can do read-ins and readouts of their own to make the system work best for them. Then we go to the animal movement databases like LIS and pig trace. At-risk premises and animals are located quickly. Dr. Hauer mentioned we should be able to do this in an hour. Nationally, they have set a goal of 48 hours from start to finish. I can tell you, in my limited experience working in simulations and on response, we're not there. We should be. We should aim for that. We should want that. But we're not there. Livestock producers are informed about the risks and the disease control procedures. We will go so far as to inform a producer in an area along a transport corridor to say, we're bringing trucks through around this time to this time. They are sealed, but because you're a poultry operation or whatever, please shut your ventilation system down between these hours and watch for this. We will do call-outs through our automatic system to let people know so they can protect themselves in case the systems we've already put in place just don't quite meet the muster. Livestock producers are contacted quickly and notified of the threat. So first, we inform them about the resistant disease control procedures. But we also, in the disease response, contact them quickly and notify them, and this can take just within a few hours. Animal health officials and industry partners, I've mentioned LAS, CCIA, yourselves as vets, you're often called out for different incidents. Will go out and they'll take the actions needed, often based on the emergency response plans that are already in place. Remember, 1 hour to evacuate. Do you take the family photos? Do you take clothes and water and food to live off of for the next week in a shelter? Or do you go and take care of your animals, right? These are the decisions you have to make. You have to be prepared to deal with. The one thing we don't mention here, and it should be mentioned, and shame on me, is when there is a disease, or pardon me, when there is an emergency, by being in our premise ID system, we have often been able to allow those animal owners special access back into the area that's under quarantine. So for example, when the fires happened in Slave Lake, people on our PID system, not only were they notified, hey, the fires are changing direction, you need to perhaps consider evacuating, or do you have something to take care of your animals? But they were on our list and we could contact them afterwards and saying, you know what, you're on our list. We've made arrangements if you want to go in and you can check on your animals. You can make sure they're okay. You can bring feed in. But only you guys can, right? So there are animal welfare benefits associated with this as well. This is a picture of where it went. Sooner or later and eventually things do return to normal. But how long do we want that to be? Right?